Evening. Welcome to the video for week 3 of the course. This is the week that we begin the history of social welfare, starting with readings from the Trattner book. This is a book that's been around for about 40 years. It's the classic of social welfare history. Pretty much every social worker in the United States has read this book. I read it when I was in grad school. What I've done is put together some notes. I have the first 4 chapters done, and I'll upload those to Engage tonight. And then I will have chapter 5 up by tomorrow. They're really just summarizing the key points from the chapters. I think I mentioned this earlier, but this is my first time teaching this class at Widener. So I'm building from scratch, and that's why I'm slightly delayed in getting things to you, because I'm really doing it week by week with you. Okay, so the first chapter is the background, kind of where does our social welfare history come from. There are several important questions I want you to think about as you read the entire book. The first is, who are the needy? Who are the people that someone determines is in need of something else? Who are the needy? Then the next question is, who is eligible for help? Are all needy eligible, or are only certain needy eligible? The next question is, who's responsible to help? And then tied to that is, how will help be provided? And so we're going to look at belief systems, we're going to look at policies, we're going to look at service delivery systems, we're going to look at culture, we're going to look at the state versus federal versus local, and all of those factors. So as you are reading, I want you to think about how the language that you're reading or things that you're reading relate to how we do things today. You know, what kind of system has carried through, what kind of belief has carried through, what kind of understanding of who is needy has carried through over the last 400 years. Okay. So chapter 1 is the overview, and then it does talk a bit about the English Poor Law, the Elizabethan Poor Law of 1601. And I provided you a fact sheet with details of what was included in that poor law, because that's really the foundation for a lot of our social welfare system going forward. Then we move on to chapter 2 in colonial America, and this is really life from the era of the Pilgrims up until the Revolutionary War, when we became a union. So early life in America. And we talk about, the belief system and how we decided, that we needed to help each other out in this early frontier system, early colonizing of the United States. Okay, then the third chapter is the Revolutionary War era. This is when we became, unionized statehood. We became a country, the Declaration of Independence, which said that all were equal. What that meant was all men were equal. And so that was a redefining of who were the needy and who was eligible to receive help, who was responsible to give the help, and how it would be provided. As we looked at the movement from local aid to state aid to federal aid, and a discussion about that back and forth over those upcoming decades. Also looks about, what were the factors going into how people understood the needy. So some of the highlights, the Great Awakening, the Enlightenment, and then the war itself, and how that changed things. And as we're moving towards industrialization, which is the next era. So chapter 4, which is jam-packed with lots and lots of information, is the movement towards indoor relief. And this is really the growth of social work as we know it even today. So look for trends, look for similarities, starting in chapter 4, about how we do things even in your own agency today that you can trace back. And this will help you with your assignment that's due next week, where you have to look at a social issue and trace its historical roots and the ways in which we've attempted to deal with or respond to that social issue. So I have provided some detailed notes from chapter 4, highlighting some of the historical context both in the United States and in England, because at this time we were still heavily influenced by what was happening in Europe, primarily in England, where we had a strong connection with our ancestors. Then we begin to see in the mid 1800s, 1820s to 1860s, the increase in immigration as other countries were experiencing economic and military issues that were forcing people to come to the New World for opportunity. Who would have thought that people would come to the United States, seeking a better way of life or a new opportunity? And how did we, as a nation, respond to that? And what were some of our beliefs, even in the 1820s, 1830s, 1840s, about immigrants? Um, and then the growth of, organized relief efforts, more organized, and what they're calling indoor relief efforts, institutions for both provision of services for mental health, for the feeble-minded, persons with developmental disabilities or intellectual disabilities, as we refer to it today, and then almshouses and workhouses for the able-bodied and orphanages for children. And so the evolution, of the service delivery system, which is the precursor to social work today. So that's really what you're going to review in the first 4 chapters. The 5th chapter is looking at Civil War era and the growth of services to meet the needs. We had a dramatic military event in our country, with more people killed in war than, that America had ever experienced. And so how does the United States respond to that? So if you have any questions as you're putting together your paper for week 4 or coming up with your social issue, please reach out and talk it over with me. I can help you either narrow or broaden depending on what it is that you need. And I look forward to talking with you more in our next round of chats. So everybody have a great night, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks.